Hello and welcome to another video. This is Falconflare 2000 and today we are playing Kerbal Space Program. Now, the premise of this series is to complete all the Reddit weekly challenges from 1 all the way up to the current one, 51, and continue the series as more come out. Obviously, once we reach 50 or 51, then the episodes will become more spread out as I will not have any excess. But just designing the rocket here, it's just going to be a one-man lander. The first mission is just moon and back, land on the moon, bring him back. Now you'll notice at the top there, if you back up the video a little bit, I did not put a decoupler between that last fuel tank and my capsule itself, and that will come back to bite me in the ass. So just designing an asparagus-style rocket here, putting some struts on it to make sure it's very structurally stable, and structurally stable it will prove to be. Now one thing to note, this entire video is in 4x acceleration. I may change that for some of the later videos, as it does seem a little bit fast, and we're actually having a little bit of trouble narrating here if you can't tell. I'm speaking very quickly, but anyways, so we're just putting the final touches on that. We don't need any RCS. I put 4 RTGs, a battery, and a ASAS unit. I don't have any of the LVT-30s. They're all the gimbaling engines, LVT-45s. So I'm just setting up the staging at this point, preparing to launch, and the last touch before we launch is renaming it after I arrange these, because it's annoying to arrange those. So I just go up to the top and it's the Mooner Lander. So I save, check the crew, got Jebediah, the best, and I launch. Now this thing does have quite a lot of Delta V. It really doesn't need that much, but you know, if I've got it. That was just a little, when I brought up the debug menu just to prove that I'm not using cheats. You can back up the video and pause it if you didn't get a good enough look at it. But anyways, just launching it up here, detach the first set of tanks, bringing it up to around 10,000 meters before we begin our curve. Wow. My mind sort of went blank, not quite sure what it's called. My angle descent. Let's just go with that. But yes, second set of the fuel tanks is detached. Now we're just running on the last 2 as we reach up into the sky. Now at this point, when we detach, I begin to have some reservations about how I'm getting there. As you can see, the time to apoapsis is decreasing. Started at 45, then 43, 42. But that was just because of the drag of the atmosphere. Right about this point, it begins to go back up as we increase our apoapsis. Now, one thing to note, this episode is pretty short and may not be quite as interesting as the others, as the mission is quite simple, moon and back. And I accelerated it a bit too much. You know, the whole video 4 times is a little bit excessive. Video's about 10 minutes, but we just set up a maneuver node right here to circularize because we are lazy and I don't want to eyeball it. Try to get it relatively precise, but you know, it doesn't really matter. So at this point, just align, warp to the maneuver node, and burn. Now at this point, we lose that first stage, and we begin to use the second stage, also has an LVT-45 engine. And this stage lasts us quite a while. It does last us almost until our actual landing. So at this point, just quickly setting up the maneuver node for our transfer, and we once again align it, sort of. Look on the nav ball down there, and then warp to it, and estimated burn is about 40 seconds, so we start to burn about 20 seconds before. So at this point, we do not empty that. Like I said, that survives quite a while, and this is a much better look. We don't have a decoupler on that last part. We've only got a parachute that will be parachuting everything, include everything from that LVT-909 engine above, which will come back to bite us in the ass. So just warping to the to the sphere of influence change that I have set up, and we get it right about here. And at this point, I will just warp to my periapsis. Slowly, ever so slowly. And getting there, 15 minutes, 8, 6. I'm not even going to bother to read those numbers off. But at this point, we aim retrograde and just burn eyeball it to get a roughly circular orbit. And we don't need to orbit once around, we just immediately set up our deorbit burn, aim towards it, spend a little bit of time looking for it first on the nav ball, and once again we just warp to the node and prepare to fire the engines. An estimated burn was only 5 seconds, and so we finish that burn up, and now we plan another burn to completely eliminate our lateral velocity, and I decided that it was a little bit too far down at this point, so at this point I decide that I'm gonna move that up a little bit because it's don't want to take any chances, so we move that up a little bit, aim towards it, and once again warp towards it. Estimated burns about 16 seconds. It's at this point that we lose that second stage and go on to our final engine right there. So with almost all of our lateral velocity gone at this point, we eliminate that node and aim towards our retrograde, put down the landing legs, and wait till we get a little bit closer. Getting some stupid Steam notifications. Jeb, it looks like he's having the time of his life. But yes, just sort of slowing down a little bit here. Looking at I look at the radar altimeter here several times, as the radar altimeter will give me my actual distance to the ground rather than distance to sea level. And the fact that the altimeter works for the distance to sea level is a little bit ridiculous, because that uses air pressure. That's how it measures it, and obviously there's no air on the moon. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it uses something else. Magic! It's Jeb. It has to use magic. Jeb's in the cockpit, therefore magic. But yes, just bringing our rocket down at a nice little round 2 meters a second. Pretty rough landing by most standards, but you know, the capsule survived. Take a little moon. It's not a moonwalk, it's sort of a moon jetpack. Just a little bit out, then we decide to walk back to our capsule because, yeah. Now at this point, I try to walk backwards because I want to see his face, but it just makes him turn around too and walk backwards because he sucks. But anyways, back up into the crew capsule. Just get a little shot there, posing for a photo as we jump into the capsule, lift off, go back almost straight up, then get a pretty nice periapsis, then aim east. Now at this point I start to have reservations about how much fuel, but that quickly turns out to be not needed, as I have plenty. So at this point, just warping to our apoapsis again, circularizing our lunar orbit, just eyeballing it at this point. And now we just plan just as simple as planning our return from the moon. I believe this is the most efficient way to do it with that placement, burning the opposite way the moon is moving around Kerbal. And we get our periapsis down to a nice 40 kilometers, so according to the maneuver node, so just inside the atmosphere, plenty of time to aerobrake. Take a pass or two to fully aerobrake and land, slow our velocity down quite a bit. So we just warp towards our maneuver node as we burn away from the moon and towards the Earth. Well, not towards the Earth, it's sort of away from the Earth too, but you know what I mean. So at this point we just warp to that, and I got my periapsis a little too low. It's more about 27,000, so we only take one pass in the aerobraking, which is a little bit fast, but with a little bit of engine power it still helps quite a bit. And at this point I have SAS on, so I was sort of heading the wrong way. Good thing there's no deadly re-entry effects. And no, I'm not installing that plugin. Absolutely not. So this is the point where not putting that final decoupler comes back to bite me. So we just land here, deploy the parachute, and at this point we turn off SAS, so we have a more natural curve floating down. And this is we use the engine to slow down so we don't rip our craft apart, And this is where that decoupler mistake comes back to bite me in the butt. I'm going down at a nice fast 11 meters a second, and everything splashes down hard except the capsule and the landing legs. I'm surprised the capsule didn't break too. But yes, this has been the first episode of KSP Weekly Reddit Challenges. Remember to like and subscribe. Favorite the video if you really liked it. Leave a comment down below of something that I should have done better or did wrong. But for now, this is Falconflyer 2000 signing off. I'll see you next time. Right after I get Jebediah back into that capsule. Idiot. Alright. See you next time.